Good morning, everyone. Are we picking back up with Dr. Nye, or are we interrupting her testimony to accommodate another witness's schedule?
Yes, Your Honor, counsel, we have conferred, and we are going to call Sheriff Hemsstatt first this morning due to scheduling. Dr. Nye is available this afternoon.
Okay.
We are planning to move Mr. Castle till tomorrow, and we may finish a little early today, but I don't want to promise the court. And then I just have one housekeeping matter. After conferring with the state, there are 2 additional exhibits which are depositions that we have an agreement to admit.
Okay. Are those marked as exhibits?
Yes.
All right. And the numbers?
301
All right.
and 346.
And counsel, 301 and 346, is that accurate that those can come in without objection?
Good morning, and yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
All right, those will be admitted. Any housekeeping matters that the state wish to address this morning?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Sheriff Hemsstatt, it sounds like you are up. If you're ready, please come forward and have a seat in the chair to my left. Morning. You raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be true and correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat, and if you turn the microphone on in front of you there. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. If I talk too fast or my question doesn't make sense, please ask me to repeat it and slow down.
Sure.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Travis Hemsstatt.
And Mr. Hemsstatt, how are you employed?
I'm the sheriff of Delaware County.
And how long have you been sheriff?
Since January 1st.
Of 2025?
Yes.
And what did you do before that?
I was employed with the Delaware County Sheriff's Office as a deputy.
And how long were you employed as a deputy?
I've been employed as a deputy for approximately 18 years.
And most of that has been here in Delaware County?
The majority, yes.
Have you completed any specific trainings or certifications since you were elected sheriff and took office as sheriff?
No.
And can you tell me a little bit about the Delaware County Sheriff's Office evidence room?
We have a secured evidence room.
Can you tell me where it is or how big it is?
It's within our sheriff's office, and it's probably 30 feet by 40 feet square.
Is it what I envision as far as a room with shelves that contain boxes and evidence and files?
Yes.
And do you use a evidence logbook or software to track evidence?
Yes.
And does the Delaware County Sheriff's Office have policies regarding the retention of evidence or the handling of evidence?
Yes.
If we can show you Exhibit 400, I believe this is the Delaware County Sheriff's Office policies and procedures that were tendered to us, just to make sure that we are on the same page. Can you see that on your screen?
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Rules and regulations of the Delaware County Sheriff's Office.
And do you have a date on that first page?
Revised 1978.
Okay. And so these are older policies. And are you aware of some newer policies as well?
I don't believe this is the policy and procedure from that time frame.
Right. This would be prior to the most recent or the policies in place now?
No.
Okay. Clarify for me, please.
Are we talking the policy and procedure manual during 2018?
We can. I'm just trying to identify the exhibit at this time.
Oh, sure. Yes, this is rules and regulations.
Okay. And I'm going to ask our team to scroll for you until we get to the more recent version. And if I understood your answer correctly, there's a version that would have been applicable in 2018?
Yes.
To While she's scrolling through to about page 181, is this familiar to you, this page?
Yes.
Do you know if this is the page that is applicable in 2018 or today?
I believe so. It looks like the same format.
Okay. And does your policy and procedures manual contain direction on how to handle evidence coming in and out of the evidence room?
Yes.
Does it require you to complete a report?
I'm not sure. I haven't read it in a while.
You haven't updated them since you took over?
No.
What was your policy or your practice when you were an investigator and a deputy sheriff regarding evidence into the evidence room and out?
Yep. So as an investigator, when we seize evidence, we will seize it, we'll tag it, and we'll bag it appropriately, put the proper information on the tag, and we place it in the evidence room. Then our evidence technician then logs it into the system. And then if we are requesting a item to go to the lab, we would just let our evidence technician know, and then the evidence technician does the proper logging documentation, and then we do what we need to do with the evidence.
Do you recall who the evidence technician was in 2018?
Jill Knipper.
And if the evidence was not leaving the sheriff's office, was there any paperwork completed?
No, I don't believe so. You would have to ask her. I don't know what she does on her end.
Did you enter the evidence room after Mr. Mullis's criminal trial in 2019?
No.
You never entered the evidence room?
I don't have access into the evidence room. Are you talking about our old office or our new office?
I think both.
Both, okay.
Just after the criminal trial in 2019?
Oh, yes, I did once.
Okay. And is there any documentation of when you did that?
I don't believe so, unless Jill had documentation. I don't know.
You don't recall creating anything or signing like a check-in and out sheet or anything like that?
No.
Okay. In your experience, is evidence handling an important part of law enforcement's job?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about why that's important?
Well, it's for chain of custody.
Real quick before I lose this train of thought, you said that you recalled entering the evidence room once after Mr. Mullis's 2019 criminal trial.
Yes.
Do you recall what year that was?
I don't.
And if we shift a little bit to your duties in 2018, can you tell us briefly what you were in charge of or what you were doing for the sheriff's office?
I was a patrol deputy and then also assigned to investigations.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your understanding is for the goals of an investigation?
The goals?
In general.
The goals for an investigation is to perform interviews, collect evidence, and essentially come to a conclusion on a case. I guess every case is different.
Would you say it's investigating whether a crime occurred?
Yes.
Okay. And does your investigation include people outside of you as an investigator? Other people?
Can you I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah. When you conduct an investigation as a deputy sheriff, are there other people that are a part of that investigation?
Yes, we work alongside with many agencies.
Does that include the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation?
Yes.
The Iowa State Medical Examiner?
Yes.
Other law enforcement local agencies?
Yes.
Do you also consult with first responders or medical personnel in certain investigations?
In certain, yes.
If another person is in your investigation is mistaken about a fact, does that affect your entire investigation?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
Can you rephrase that? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
Sure. If another person who you were working with in an investigation, like a first responder or a medical examiner or another investigator, makes a mistake, in your experience, would that affect your investigation?
It's situational based. Like I said, every case is fluid, things change.
If someone tells you it's a blue car and it ends up being a gray car, is that a mistake?
Yes.
Have you ever thought you saw someone you knew in Walmart and it turned out it wasn't who you thought it was?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
I don't believe, no, I haven't, not in Walmart.
Someplace, I'm trying to give you a hypothetical, I think, Sheriff.
I understand, yes.
Have you made a mistake before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nobody's perfect.
When you were conducting the investigation into Mrs. Mullis's death, how did you communicate with other people that you were working with in the investigation?
In person, by phone.
Did you send emails?
Yeah, I'm sure I did.
Did you receive emails?
Yes,
Send or receive text messages?
yes,
Did you have meetings?
yes,
Did you share reports with each other?
yes,
Did you have access to body cam or audio recordings of interviews?
yes,
What about video of interviews or interactions with witnesses?
yes,
Would all of these documents and communications be a part of your investigative case file?
yes,
Going back to Exhibit 400, I want to make sure I find the right page for you. I think it's 222. Do you recall the policy or the procedure in the Sheriff's Office for report writing in 2018?
no,
If you could take a quick look at page 222, which should be on the screen in front of you. Have you reviewed that?
yes,
Does it contain information about how to write a report or when a report should be written?
yes,
Do you have an investigative technique or procedure that you use to determine how someone was injured?
no,
And you've testified previously regarding Amy Mullis's death in your investigation.
yes,
And we can show you this testimony as well, so I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to trick you. But do you recall testifying August 29th, 2019 in a deposition before the criminal trial?
yes,
And for the record, that is Exhibit 258, which we've already admitted. And then do you recall testifying at the criminal trial September 19th, 2019?
yes,
And then you've testified in 2023 in another deposition in this post-conviction action. Is that your memory?
yes,
Okay. And for the record, the PCR deposition is Exhibit 327. did you testify truthfully and accurately each of those 3 times?
To my best of my ability, yes.
Have you learned since then that your testimony at the criminal trial September 19th, 2019 was false?
I don't believe so.
Have you learned that you stated facts that weren't true?
Nothing that was pointed out to me, no.
You don't recall in your 2023 deposition learning that you were incorrect about the times of Google searches?
Yes, I didn't have a clear understanding of the UTC time at that time, yes.
All right, and Mr. Hemsstatt, I don't want to repeat all of your prior testimony, so if my questions don't make sense, please let me know. But you have, am I correct that you have a 2-year degree in police science?
Yes.
And does that 2-year degree that you have cover physics?
That I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
Do you recall learning any engineering principles in your studies?
No.
Anything about biomechanics and the body?
No.
Did you learn about accident reconstruction?
Yes.
Would that have been focused on motor vehicle accidents?
Yes.
And are you a lifelong resident of Delaware County?
No.
Where did you live before Delaware County?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Up in Howard County.
Is Howard County considered a rural area or a farming community?
Yes.
In the course of your experience in your law enforcement career, have you responded to farming accidents?
Yes.
When did you get involved in the investigation or learn about the death of Amy Mullis?
It would have been on the evening of November 10th, 2018.
Do you recall what time?
I came on shift at 5, and I believe around 5:30, 6 o'clock range is when I became aware.
Do you remember how you became aware?
I think I read a call page, and then I spoke to Deputy Thompson.
What did you do after you read that call page and spoke to Deputy Thompson?
Deputy Thompson went out to the farm with me, the Mullis farm.
To the Mullis farm?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time you got there?
I think around 6 p.m.
And this would have been November 10th, 2018?
Yes.
And that is the day that Ms. Mullis died?
Yes.
And I don't want you to assume, but do you remember, was it dark outside?
I believe so. Yes.
Was it cold?
Yes.
Was there snow on the ground?
Yes.
Why did you want to go to the farm?
Well, I wanted a better understanding as far as what happened. Deputy Thompson advised me of what had occurred, so I just had asked him if he would take me out to the farm and just kind of walk me through it. So we went to the farm and essentially did a consent approach to the scene, you would say, or the reported area, and Deputy Todd Thompson walked me through.
And the Mullis family gave you consent to examine the shed and the outbuildings?
Yes, it gave consent to Deputy Thompson.
Did you talk to Sheriff LeClaire before you went to the farm?
I don't believe I did, no.
You talked to him while you were there, though?
I honestly don't recall if I did or not.
Would you disagree if the phone record showed that you were on the phone with Sheriff LeClaire while you're at the farm?
Yeah, if the phone records show it, yes. I don't recall speaking with him.
So you don't recall what you talked about then?
I do not, no.
Is there a report that you completed regarding your activities on November 10th, 2018?
I didn't have access to all my reports for today, but I believe there would have been.
We'll try to look and see if we can find a report for you, but we'll move on, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Do you recall walking around the farmyard that night?
I wasn't walking around the farmyard, but I was walking around the red shed, yes.
Okay. And did you see anything unusual?
You'd have to be more specific than that. What do you mean by unusual?
Well, you previously testified that you saw nothing unusual outside of the shed.
Correct.
Okay. And that included that you didn't notice any footprints or tracks. Is that still your recollection?
Correct, yes.
Did you see surveillance cameras while you were there November 10th?
No.
How wide was the door to get into the shed?
That I'm not sure. It wasn't very wide.
Did you take any photographs while you were there?
No.
Have you reviewed the photographs that Deputies Thompson and Holub took earlier in the day?
It's been a while since I've seen them, but I did see them at a later date.
Would it help you if you could review those today?
I have a general understanding of the majority of them.
Okay. So is your testimony that you don't know how wide the doorway was to get into the shed?
And not to exact, no. Not exact measurements, no. But I do believe we have photographs of that.
Okay. Could you and I have walked into the shed together, arm in arm?
I don't think so. If my memory serves me right, it's 2 to 3 feet wide, maybe.
Did you try to move the door?
I did not.
How wide was the aisle or the walkway once you entered the shed?
Again, off memory, I believe around that 30-some inch range.
And you would defer to your reports that you had written?
Well, we took photographs of the scene.
Can we show Exhibit 311? Mr. Hemsstatt, I believe these are photographs taken by the Delaware County Sheriff's Office that you might be referring to. And they were tendered to me as a PDF that has a total of 20 pictures, so we'll have to scroll through. Is this the shed that you were referring to?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Nicole, the opening there, is that the door that you were referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And then if we can go down to 19, I'm sorry. Do you know what this picture is showing us?
Yes.
What is it?
This is that alleyway. You come into the front door, and then when you immediately look left.
So this would depict how wide it was. This is how you documented it?
Yes. Well, I did not document this.
Your sheriff's office, your investigation did?
Deputy Thompson did right after the 911 call.
Okay. How tall were the chemical totes? Because the picture doesn't go all the way up, right?
I believe they're too high because I don't think a third one stacked on top of that would clear the door clearance. I'm not sure though.
Was it above your head?
Yes.
And how tall are you?
Pretty short,
I think I'm going to have to ask you to be a little more specific there.
like 5'7".
Okay, so more than 6 feet?
Yes,
Were they taller than 7 feet?
yes.
And then if we could go back up to 18. Page 18 of 311 for the record, I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Hemsstatt, what are we looking at here in the middle picture?
Yes, so you go down that alley where you've seen the corn rake laying on the ground, and then you look immediately to your right, and that is displayed just down that walkway. That's the animal carrier crate.
And are these the only two places you can walk in that shed?
Yes,
And this is the documentation we have of how wide that area was as well.
yes.
Did you walk down towards the pet carrier while you were in the shed?
Yes.
And did you make any observations about the carrier?
It's half pulled out on the shelf.
And what are we seeing there in the photo under the pet carrier?
Some grain augers.
What is a grain auger?
It augers grain.
For those of us that aren't farmers, what does that mean?
It means it moves the flow of grain through a tube.
And so the green and the black long cylinder objects we see in the pictures, those are the augers,
Yes.
and they move,
Well, they don't right there.
but they can move.
Yeah, they need to be inserted into a steel tube, and then a motor runs that and it augers grain.
So there's a piece of them, like the circular, the rounded piece that moves around. Is that right?
No, this would just be like a smaller version would be like an ice auger.
Okay. I'm sorry, I still don't know what that is, but did you step on these augers?
No,
Did you touch them?
no,
Did you attempt to manipulate them or move them in any way?
no.
I want to show you Exhibit 269 now. When you're in that walkway, what's to the right of you?
Be like a throw bale wagon for hay?
Did you make any observations about what was in that wagon?
I don't recall.
Have you seen this photo before?
So there's tanks in the wagon.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that?
There's tanks in the wagon,
Tanks.
water, chemical tanks. The way that's what this picture displays.
Do you also see a stuffed animal, a kid's toy?
Yes.
Counsel, just for the record, which exhibit is this? There's a number of stickers on it.
This has been marked 269 for the purposes of the post-conviction. At trial, it was, I think, I can't read that, 103.
Thank you.
Okay. You can take that down. Thank you. Mr. Hemsstatt, did you talk with Todd or Tristan Mullis on November 10th?
No.
Did your other deputies in your office talk with them?
Yes.
Did you review their reports?
Yes.
And have you reviewed any body cam, video, or audio of those interviews?
No.
Did you also review a report written by the sheriff at the time, Mr. LeClaire?
Yes.
And I believe these have already been admitted, but I'm referring to Exhibit 201 and 221 regarding Sheriff LeClaire's report and his deposition. Have you had an opportunity to review any of the depositions given in this matter?
Not of other people, no.
Okay. And then Exhibit 318 is Thompson's report, and 264 is Holub's report. Do you recall whether your theory when you left the farm November 10th, what your theory was regarding how Ms. Mullis died?
I honestly didn't have a theory. I asked Deputy Thompson to walk me out there, or take me out there, and to describe what was explained to him. My next step after that was just the autopsy.
When did you learn there was going to be an autopsy?
I believe the next day.
When you were on the farm and in the shed, did you find anything that disproved the idea or the theory that Ms. Mullis had tripped and fallen?
No.
So you said a moment ago, I think, that the next day you learned there was going to be an autopsy. Do you remember who you learned that from?
I don't. I'm assuming that was communicated from the hospital.
Do you recall having conversations with Mr. LeClaire?
Well, we had a lot of conversations. John and I did. He may have told me, or Mike Croffel. I know Mike Croffel with DCI was contacted. John had contacted him, so I may have heard it from Mike too.
So, John or Mr. LeClaire was having conversations with DCI agent Croffel?
Yes.
And were you a part of those, or you just were told about them?
No, I wasn't a part of those. I was just told about it.
What else happened on November 11th?
November 11th?
Yes, the second day of your investigation.
I believe I came in and then I was briefed on the rest of it. We had conversations with DCI. I talked with John, and the next step was I believe I had conversations with DCI Special Agent Mike Croffel about attending the autopsy. That was the next thing I did, I believe, in the case.
Were you aware that Mike Croffel told LeClaire to lock Todd into his story on the 10th?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I learned that from reviewing his report.
Do you recall any other investigative activities on the 11th?
Not offhand, no.
Do you know what happened next in the investigation?
I went to the autopsy.
Do you recall what date that was?
I don't.
If the autopsy report is dated November 12th, 2018, would you accept that?
Yes.
There's been testimony about another deputy we haven't talked about yet, Keith Rowley.
Yes.
Who's Keith?
Keith was a deputy at the sheriff's office during this time.
And is he no longer a deputy?
Correct, he retired.
What did you learn about Deputy Rowley as it related to your investigation?
We had learned that he had a previous affair before this incident with Amy Mullis.
What were the dates of that affair?
That I don't know. I was just told it was way before this incident, and that him and his wife were in a good place at the time that this incident occurred.
For clarity of the record, when this incident occurred, you're talking about Amy's death on November 10th?
Yes.
Okay. So there's been testimony about clearing Deputy Rowley as a suspect. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Were you involved in that?
Not directly, no.
Why was that?
That was between the sheriff and DCI.
So were you indirectly involved in that part of the investigation?
Yes.
What did you do?
I was in the office, I don't remember the date of it. I was in the office and Keith had came in to the office. I believe DCI was present within our office, and Keith had asked to have a conversation with us quick and in the sheriff's office, and that's when he had disclosed to us that he had a previous affair with Amy. He was currently working that day, and then that was it. It was short, it was brief. I left it up to John and I think Mike Croffle or John Turbot to address that.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what a patrol log is?
Patrol log is a daily activity report. You write down calls for service, town time, in and out town time.
Do you complete one every day?
I do not.
Why not?
If I get busy, I just don't have time to fill one out.
Are you supposed to complete one every day?
I guess I've never been told that I had to, but we had an understanding that if I get busy during the day, I don't fill one out.
Is there another way or another avenue to see where a deputy was during patrol?
Yes.
What's that?
Well, there's actually, yes, we have two GPSs in our car, one called Mach and one called AVL.
One called
MACH. And then the other called AVL.
Were you using both of those in 2018?
Yes. No. Yes, we were, sorry, yes.
And we have some prior testimony that that could be reviewed by the sheriff, those
Correct.
GPS I don't know if I should call it a document. How would you describe it?
I've never accessed it, so I just know it's called AVL. It's a GPS in our car. When we start our car up, it activates, and then if we shut our car off, I don't know how long it stays on. We've never been told at that time what it consists of. We just know it's a GPS system, and the sheriff had access to the platform to view it.
Did you retain any of that information in your file?
I did not.
Have you reviewed it since 2018?
Reviewed what?
The GPS information, data?
No, it's a platform, and I was told that the software, there's a certain time period it's retained for, and then it's gone. I don't know what the retention period is. Like I said, I didn't have access to that.
Okay. And we've previously admitted Exhibits 208 and 209, which are patrol logs, and if we'll pull those up for you here in a moment.
Counsel, for whatever it's worth, I show 208 as being admitted, but not 209. I don't know if you want
Yes, Your Honor, we were just
double check that.
conferring about that,
Okay.
and I believe we have an agreement to admit 209 as well, just so the record is clear.
Okay. Should I admit 209?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bakke.
Mr. Hemsstatt, on your screen, are you seeing Exhibit 208? 209? I'm sorry, I can't see that clearly. All right, 208. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
What is it?
Patrol log.
For who?
Keith Rowley.
And this would have been in addition to the GPS information and data that the sheriff reviewed?
I don't know if we reviewed it, but we have it.
As far as information regarding where Rowley was at the time that Amy Mullis was injured?
Yes.
Okay. And then if we can flip to 209. and scroll so that Mr. Hemsstatt can see the multiple pages. And when you are ready, if you can let us know what these are.
Patrol logs,
And do these include other deputies in addition to Mr. Rowley?
yes.
Do you know if Deputy Rowley responded to the dispatch on November 10th, 2018 regarding Mrs. Mullis?
No,
And do you recall testifying previously that Deputy Rowley was nowhere near the Mullis residence?
yes.
Is the basis for that statement the patrol log and the GPS that we don't have to look at today?
It's what I was told from the sheriff.
So you don't have any personal knowledge about how close Rowley was to the Mullis farm?
No,
Do you know if you learned about Rowley and reviewed the GPS data before autopsy or after?
I didn't review any of that. That wasn't my responsibility in this case.
Okay, but maybe I'm misunderstanding. You said you were in the office with the sheriff while he was reviewing it?
I was present after we had briefly spoke to Keith, and he had brought it up on his computer and started reviewing it. I don't believe I stayed in there the whole time. I had other avenues that I was working on, and I just had asked him, I said, please preserve that when you're done. He finished, obviously, and he had communicated with DCI that Keith was not near that location.
At that point, did you consider him cleared as a suspect?
I believe that's what John Turnbutt and Mike Croffel and I had. I didn't specifically come out and say he's cleared. That was a determination from Mike and John.
Okay. And if you're clearing a suspect, does that mean that you've already decided there was a crime?
Yeah. Or a suspected crime.
Okay. Let's move on to the autopsy.
Okay.
You would have attended that at the medical examiner's office in Ankeny, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What did you take with you when you went to the autopsy?
I took the corn rake and the clothing from Amy.
And have you seen those since the autopsy?
Yes.
When have you seen them?
During trial, several times, I guess. I don't know how many specific times.
Okay.
I brought some of the stuff up the other day in bags.
Right. It was here in the courtroom earlier this week.
Yes.
Have you looked at it in the evidence room as well?
Just once, yes. That was post-trial.
During the post-conviction?
Yes.
What did you do with the corn rake during the autopsy?
I just brought it into the medical examiner's office and gave it to the technicians, Kelly Cruz.
And were you in the room with Mrs. Mullis's body?
Yes.
Did you make any observations about the medical examiner and her assistants and the corn rake?
No.
You didn't see them look at the corn rake?
Yeah, they reviewed the corn rake, yeah.
Okay. Did you come to any conclusions during the autopsy about the corn rake?
I did not. I was there just solely for observation.
Did you complete a report about your observations?
No.
Do you think you should have completed a report?
Well, no, because the reason why we take somebody to autopsy, that's for their determination.
What did you and Dr. Cruz talk about?
We didn't talk about much. She did her examination, I just stood by, and then we talked about her conclusion at the end about that it was, she was going to rule it a homicide, or is it possible homicide?
Did you tell her how Miss Mullis's body was found?
Yes. I gave her the description that was explained to me, yes.
And that was a description that Deputy Thompson and Holub had gotten from Todd and Tristan Mullis?
Correct.
So did you have any firsthand knowledge about how Ms. Mullis's body was found?
No, I did not talk to Todd or Tristan.
Before the autopsy, had you seen any reenactment of how Ms. Mullis's body was found?
No.
Is it possible you gave Dr. Cruz incorrect information about how the body was found?
I don't believe so. I stated exactly what was described to me by Deputy Thompson.
Can we pull up Thompson's? I want to just give you Exhibit 300 to review, which I believe is Deputy Thompson's report. Can you let me know if that is correct?
Yes.
Would you take a moment to review it and see if this is the information you had when you went to the autopsy?
It is.
And now I'm going to switch to Exhibit 217. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
And for the record, this is also, it's in the exhibits twice, 254, I think, as part of the medical examiner's photographs. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
That'd be the inside of the Carhartt coat.
How many arrows are there?
4.
Do you know what the arrows are pointing to?
I believe they were pointing to the holes in the coat.
Are you aware of any photographs with arrows from the other items of clothing, the sweatshirt or the t-shirt?
No, whatever photos we have would be maintained in our case file. Yes. Or at the medical examiner's file.
Okay. And so this was was this the information you got from Dr. Cruz at the end of the autopsy, that she found 4 holes in the coat?
What do you mean by got from her?
That she told you, that you learned?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
That was a while ago. I'm not sure. I know there's holes in the coat. I don't remember seeing them take this photograph. But yeah, there was holes in the coat.
Okay. Do you recall testifying previously in 2023 that Dr. Cruz told you there were 6 holes in the coat?
If that was my testimony, yes.
You would agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me that this photo only demonstrates 4 holes?
There's 4 arrows. The lab techs must have taken that, yes.
Okay, we can take it down. What did you do after the autopsy in your investigation? Not in your personal life, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. I made contact with John Turbett and Mike Croffel and just explained to them that this is a potential homicide investigation, and then we proceeded with search warrants and interviews.
Do you recall what activities specifically you did, like which search warrants you drafted or any interviews you did between the autopsy on the 12th and November 16th?
I drafted quite a few search warrants in reference to the farm, seizing electronics, and then we did an assortment of interviews. John and I split up people and performed interviews.
Who were you talking to?
Quite a list. I don't know them all off the top of my head, honestly. I don't know if there was 25 or 30 interviews.
I'm not trying to ask you for specific names, but could you characterize what type of people you were interviewing? Were they other law enforcement or lay witnesses, fact witnesses?
Just essentially, just lay witnesses. We would get information that somebody might know something, we'd go to them, we'd speak to them, and then we would just move on to the next.
Would these include friends or family of Mrs. Mullis?
Yes.
Colleagues or coworkers of Mrs. Mullis?
Assortments, yes.
What did you learn during that time period?
To the 16th?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't recall.
Okay, that's okay. I'm sorry. I don't want you to.
I would have to review my interview summaries. The majority of that time frame, I believe I was preparing search warrants.
Were you reviewing interviews done by other officers or getting updates from them?
I'm sure during that course, yes.
Did you come to any conclusions before November 16th?
I don't remember.
Did you have a suspect November 16th?
When was the autopsy?
The 12th.
We had suspects.
On the 16th?
I don't know the dates.
When?
I don't know. I don't remember what we did between the 12th and the 16th. But we would have had two suspects at that point.
Who were they?
Would have been Jerry Frazier and Todd Mullis, to my recollection.
Okay. And so at that point, Rowley was not a suspect. Is that my understanding? Is that right?
I don't know the date that the sheriff had told me about watching the AVL. I'm unaware of the sheriff's conversation with DCI.
If you testified in your 2023 deposition that you let Deputy Rowley know he was clear November 14th, would you accept that?
Yes.
Why was Jerry Frazier a suspect?
I think we established there was communication between Amy and him.
Why was Todd a suspect?
During that time period,
Yes.
I'd have to review my reports on that.
You don't have any recollection or memory?
It came out through witness interviews, like with Terry Stainer. Through the course, we started hearing about relationship problems with Todd. John and I did.
Okay.
And at that point, I don't know the time frames on those, but
Do you recall Todd being interviewed at the sheriff's office on November 16th?
that probably would have been when John Turbot interviewed him. Yes.
Would you have been in the building?
Yes.
Did you listen or watch?
Not the whole time, briefly.
Did you talk with Agent Turbot before the interview?
Yes.
Were you aware that Turbot was going to accuse Todd of murdering Amy?
No.
Have you reviewed any of the recordings from that interview?
It was a long time ago, briefly.
If I tell you that Turbot did accuse Todd of murdering Amy in that interview, would you disagree with me?
I don't know what the context of the interview was.
Do you want me to try to find it and play it for you, or take time to review it?
Are you wanting me to agree to that?
I'm wanting to know if you disagree that Turbot told Todd or accused Todd of murdering Amy November 16th.
I believe that the topic would have came up. I don't know the context of the interview.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what John had spoke to him about.
Okay. And you haven't reviewed Turbot's depositions or trial testimony?
No.
His reports?
No.
If his reports and his audio and the video indicate he accused Mr. Mullis of murdering his wife November 16th,
Then that
would you accept that?
That would be accurate then, yes.
On November 16th, in your investigation, had you obtained any cell phone records of the victim or the suspects?
That I don't know. I forget the date that we actually executed the warrant at the house.
If I told you you executed the warrant after the interview with Mr. Mullis later on November 16th, would you agree?
Yes.
Were you there for that?
For the warrant?
Yes.
Yes.
Was Agent Turbot there?
Yes.
Was Mr. Mullis there?
Yes.
Was his sister Lynn White there?
I don't remember if she was or not. I know Bob Saber was, a few other DCI agents, and a couple other deputies from our office. She may have been there at some point. I don't know.
Okay. Bob Saber, is he an attorney?
Yes.
Did you know he was an attorney when you went to the farm?
Yes, shortly afterwards.
Was he there for Mr. Mullis?
I don't know why I was there. I would assume he was there for Mr. Mullis, yeah.
What did you seize November 16th on that search warrant?
Electronics, and then yes.
And do you recall there being an iPad?
Yes,
And do you recall asking for a password?
I do, yes.
Do you recall testifying about Todd consenting and giving you that password?
Yes.
And Todd consulted with Mr. Sabers and then gave you the password. Is that your recollection?
Yes.
Do you recall testifying at trial that Todd hesitated before giving you the password?
Yes.
Do you think telling a jury that he hesitated had a bad connotation?
Objection, this is, it's an improper question. His opinion on what the impact on the jury was is not relevant.
Sustained.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. What inference were you making when you said Todd hesitated?
I'm going to object again, Your Honor. This is still commenting on what the impact on the jury was. The record speaks for itself. The transcript's already in evidence.
Sustained.
Why did you say he hesitated?
Because he hesitated.
Because he talked to his lawyer? That's hesitation? I'm trying to understand your thought process there.
Yeah, so I asked him for the password, and he hesitated, and then he consulted with his attorney, and then he gave me the password.
And you were wearing your body camera at that time?
Yes, it's documented by video.
Do you recall testifying at the criminal trial in 2019 about the results of examinations on this electronic evidence that you seized?
Yes.
And you're not certified to conduct electronic device analysis?
The physical extractions, the digital imaging of a device, no.
And do you have any specific training on interpreting extractions?
For a Cellbrite, we are provided a Cellbrite reader, and we don't need to have a certification on that. The platform is very easily navigatable, and you can't alter it. So no law enforcement has to have certification on the reader program that we are provided from we use Ward Crawley, and he's certified on Cellbrite, so he would do the examination on the examiner, and then he provides the reader program to law enforcement.
Okay. But my question was, do you have any specific training on interpreting the extraction results?
On the reader?
Yes.
No, there is none.
Okay. There's no training available to you?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Did you testify that the Google searches were all done by Todd Mullis?
I'm going to object. The transcript speaks for itself.
Overruled.
I don't remember exactly what my transcript, I didn't go over my trial transcript, but Is it possible that more than Todd searched on that iPad? Yeah, it's possible in certain categories. It's possible. But it's not reasonable in some other categories of that search.
In addition to Ward Crawley, do you recall also speaking with Roman Gamble at DCI?
Yes,
Did that happen in 2024
it did.
during this post-conviction?
It did.
After you learned about Mr. Castle's examination and analysis?
I don't know what his analysis is.
You haven't reviewed that?
No.
You have reviewed parts of the post-conviction filing, though?
What do you mean by the filing?
Well, in your 2023 deposition in this post-conviction,
Just a few paragraphs. There was, to my knowledge, there was several filings, but I've only read a few paragraphs.
thank you for that clarification. Your deposition made it sound like you read everything.
No, no.
Were you aware that the iPad did not have cellular data in 2018?
Upon the time that we seized the iPad, I didn't know. I know the iPad is either cellular or Wi-Fi capable. I just seized the device and then gave it to Ward Crawley.
I'm not trying to be flippant, but if a device like an iPad or a cell phone does not have cellular data, does it work in a rural area like a cornfield?
Only if there's Wi-Fi available.
Is there generally Wi-Fi available in a cornfield?
Well, I mean, it depends. We're not going to get far-fetched on this, but there are farms that have Wi-Fi capabilities that extend beyond the house or a residence. Yes, that is possible. Anything is possible. In a cornfield, it depends on how close you're to other residents. This is a hypothetical, but yes.
Did you do any investigation into where Todd Mullis was at the time you thought these searches were being done?
There's no way to know where he was. No,
Didn't you also seize his cell phone?
I didn't.
Didn't you also have it examined and analyzed?
Yes,
Are you aware of cell tower records from cell phones?
yes.
Are you saying you couldn't have used those to determine where Todd was?
I had asked Ward Crawley about that for the Cellbrite, about the location data, and he didn't provide me with anything.
Could you have talked to witnesses about the dates in question and if they had seen Todd that day?
Yeah, I guess we could. Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could have.
Coming from a farming community, are you familiar with the time period that farmers are most busy?
Yes.
When is that?
Well, weather dependent, spring and fall.
And have you ever seen someone in a field late into the night,
Yes.
early in the morning,
Yes.
around the clock?
I haven't seen somebody in the field 24 hours personally.
But at any time of the day?
Yeah, any time of the day is possible. Correct.
And spring would be planting season, is that fair?
Yes.
Is fall harvest?
Yes.
Some of the searches that you attributed to Todd would have been occurring in spring or fall, right?
Yes. Some of them were in May and then some were in January.
Okay. Did you do any investigation into Todd's activities in May or January? Or what was the other month you said? I'm sorry.
May and,
May
well,
and June.
there's several sections. Roman Gamble, he created a spreadsheet for the layout, so it's easily read
Okay.
for visual aid.
Did you do any investigation as to those time periods where Todd was?
I don't believe so.
Did you talk to any witnesses about Todd's activities?
Objection, that's overly broad.
I'm sorry. Your Honor, if I finish my thought. During those time periods of the Google searches.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Do you have any information from your investigation that Todd would have been able to do a search from the iPad while he was planting corn?
No.
Your testimony at the 2019 trial regarding the Google search warrant return and the iPad, all of that comes from Ward Crowley's work? Is that, am I understanding that?
What do you mean by that?
You testified about the timing and the content of the searches and what they were done on. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you've told us that you were wrong about what UTC time was.
Yes, I didn't understand the time.
And so you testified that some searches were done late at night, but that wasn't true.
Well, correct, it wouldn't have been accurate because the conversion wasn't completed.
Okay. And you testified about looking at the iPad and the browser search history.
Yes, Ward and I did.
That is not the same as a forensic digital extraction, though. Is it the same?
Then what are you comparing it to?
What you did to the iPad?
What Ward and I sat down and went through as
No.
far as the comparison?
Nope, that's one thing, right?
Okay, that's the device.
And then you personally looked at the iPad in your hands,
Okay,
just like you would for your teenager, to
Okay.
see what they've been Googling, right?
oh, sure, yes.
You did that.
I looked at when we were down there, we looked into not the search history, it would have been like the Google bar where it saves your last 10 or 11 searches, but those displayed on the Cellbrite extraction.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Okay.
Have you listened to the 911 call from November 10th, 2018?
Yes. It's been a while, but yes.
Do you recall when you first listened to it?
I don't.
Would it have been before you arrested Todd?
I don't believe I listened to that. It was thrown into the case file. I don't believe I listened to the 911 call before we made the arrest.
Okay. And you arrested Todd several months after Amy's death?
Yes.
Do you recall the date?
I don't.
If I told you your body cam reflects February 29th, 2019, would you agree?
Yes.
February 28th, I'm sorry. February doesn't usually have 29 days, right?
Yes.
Did you arrest Todd at his home, at his farm?
No.
Where did you arrest Todd at?
It'd be a hog building on 270th Avenue.
How did you know that's where Todd was?
It was a lucky guess. We seen his truck there.
Okay. And did Todd resist?
No.
When you approached the hog building, do you recall what you said to Todd?
I had opened the door and Todd was sitting there, and then I asked him to come outside.
Do you recall telling him, I have your electronic devices to return to you?
Yes.
Were you carrying a box?
Yes.
Was that in fact a lie?
Objection to that characterization.
Overruled.
There was no electronics in the box. It was a safety precaution.
So the box was empty?
Yes.
When Todd came out of the building, what did you do?
I believe I placed him under arrest.
Did you place handcuffs on him?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Then he was escorted to Eric Brooks' squad car and placed inside.
When you say squad car, does that also include a truck?
It was a truck, yes.
Is it common for your sheriff's office to have trucks instead of a four-door sedan?
Yeah, it was a crew cab Dodge.
And was Agent Turbin on the scene with you?
He was in the truck.
And so you placed Mr. Mullis under arrest and then placed him in the truck with Agent Turbot?
Yes.
What was your plan for having Mr. Mullis with Agent Turbot
John wanted to speak with him again.
after he was arrested?
Yes.
At the time you arrested Todd in February of 2019, you knew he had counsel. Did you?
Well, Bob Sabers. Yes.
Did you coordinate with Bob Sabers so that Mr. Mullis could have turned himself in?
I didn't.
Do you remember discussing that with your investigative team?
I don't believe so. It may have came up. I don't know. I don't remember. That was a long time ago, but as far as I know, no.
Did you consider yourself to be the lead investigator for the sheriff's office?
Yeah, so I'm the lead point of contact for the sheriff's office, and John is the lead point contact for DCI. And so the two of us, we team together for the lead point of contact, yes.
You could you have contacted Mr. Sabers and asked him to have his client turn himself in?
Yes, that is possible.
After Todd's arrest, did you read him any Miranda warnings?
I did not.
Did you hear anybody read him Miranda warnings?
No.
You knew Agent Turbot was planning to talk to him in the
Yes.
car?
Yes.
And I've seen this video, so it appears that you leave the truck and go back to the hog barn. Is that your recollection?
Yeah, I think we just stand around outside.
Did
And
you get into the truck at any point?
No.
At the time you arrested Todd, had you listened to the 911 call?
I don't believe so.
Had you listened to the dispatch recordings?
I don't believe so.
Have you listened to them now?
It's been a while, but yes, it was around trial time.
And that would have been September of 2019.
Yes.
Do you recall specifically listening to the 911 call and to the dispatch, like radio traffic?
Yes, that's what we would have had, yes.
I ask because for me, they're two separate recordings and files. Do they appear that way to you?
I believe it's all one, just the 911 recording with audio, but yes.
So have you ever listened to a separate recording that's the dispatchers? Okay. Is it always just been one file?
I believe so.
Okay. I don't want to play the wrong thing for you. Do you recall the prosecutor from the AG's office at the trial in 2019, who that was?
Yes, Maureen.
What was her last name?
I believe Hughes.
Had you worked with her before?
No.
Have you worked with her since?
No.
Do you know if she's still in Iowa?
Last I heard, I think she's in Tennessee. I don't know if that's accurate, to be honest.
Did you assist her in preparation for trial?
Well, I didn't assist her. I mean, we trial prepped.
Did you help her with evidence and exhibits?
Yes.
Specifically the 911 call?
Yes.
Do you recall calling her the night before Todd's cross-exam at the criminal trial?
Yes.
Was that after 10 p.m.?
Probably was. I don't know the time, but yes, I talked to her.
Was that about the 911 call?
Yes.
Were you excited?
I don't know if I was excited. I mean, what do you mean by excited? No, we talked about the 911 call and we discussed if she was going to use a 911 call. That was the conversation.
Did you learn something new that prompted that phone call?
About
About the 911 call?
Yeah. Well, about what the contents of it, whether it said one thing or the other. Yeah, that's what was this discussion about, yes.
Where did you learn that?
I don't remember how we got that information, honestly.
Did you document any report about how you got that information?
I did not, no.
Do you recall the name of the person?
No, I don't know if somebody sent me a message or called me. I don't remember that, but essentially it was a tip.
And this tip tells you there's something else being said on this 911 call?
Yes.
Had you ever heard that before?
I've never listened to the audio before that.
So you're near the end of a murder trial and you never listened to the 911 audio before?
I don't. I did not listen to it. We obtained it, we put it in the case file, but I don't believe I ever listened to it.
Do you know if anyone else listened to it before trial?
Objection calls for speculation.
That I don't know.
Did you have any discussions about the 911 call being an exhibit at trial?
It was an exhibit.
Do you recall talking to the county attorney about it?
About entering it as an exhibit?
Yes.
I think that's common practice.
Are you aware that any statement made by a criminal defendant has to be disclosed to him before trial?
Objection, this witness's knowledge of the rules of criminal procedure is not relevant to the things at issue.
I would say he's trained on those and he knows what Miranda is, so he can answer the question.
Overruled, the witness can answer if he knows.
I don't know.
Do you think it would be important evidence if the defendant or a suspect made an admission?
But yeah, I think that's important, yeah.
Do you think the statements that the AG argued Mr. Mullis made are prejudicial?
That wasn't my decision.
I'm asking for your opinion.
Prejudicial? I don't know.
Do you think they were indicative of guilt?
As far as the content,
Well, the new statements that you guys discovered in the middle of trial, were those important to you?
they're important to the case
Why?
because of the content.
Because why?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking me. The content, the Maureen pointed out the audio, and she made the argument. I had no involvement in that. So whatever the content is the content is.
As an investigator,
Okay.
disparaging comments about a victim, are those important to you?
From a defendant, yes.
Or from a suspect?
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't think I have any choice but to play it, and if we're okay, we haven't tested audio yet to make sure it works. The 911 call is Exhibit 293.
And 293 has not been admitted.
So it like cuts off, and so I have to put both of the files in that folder. Yeah. I would just be careful with them unless you have any objection to them.
The 911 call's in evidence, so I have no objection. It was admitted in the underlying trial, so it's already in evidence in this case.
So I guess 293 will be admitted separately then if it is identified. Obviously, it is part of the underlying record as well.
And I would just clarify for that, as long as this is the same version and file as the, so as long as they agree to that and it's not a different version, I have no objection.
We don't want a new enhanced audio argument, I hope. And then,
Your Honor, would you prefer to take a break and we can play it for the state and make sure there's no problem with it?
that might be the safer bet. Why don't we go ahead and do that? And then also, any audio recordings will not be reported, just to clarify that. So let's go ahead and take about 15 minutes and we'll pick back up around 10:30. Court's in recess till then. Okay, Ms. Nichols-Cook, we're back on the record. Were you picking back up with your audio?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and that exhibit number again is?
Your Honor, it's Exhibit 293.
Okay.
It has been tendered to the court on an external hard drive. There are 2 actual audio files in a folder. There might be a third one that is a duplicate of 297, so we will clarify that for you later. But at this time, conferred with the state, we are going to play 293 File 1, which is, these are the 2 files that were played in the underlying criminal trial.
And, Your Honor, as I indicated to Mr. Mullis's counsel that we're going to object to this line of inquiry. We agree that these are the same as the 911 calls that were admitted in evidence at trial, so we have no objection on that front. However, how we anticipate this line of questioning is essentially an attempt to have Sheriff Hemsstatt try to determine on the spot whether he can hear it over the court speakers in this courtroom, whether the statements that were referenced at the trial. So if that's where we're going, I'm just going to state that we would object to that because his recollection at the time of trial and what was actually heard in that courtroom is what matters.
Your Honor, I can represent to the court that that's not my point.
Okay, well, we'll play the files and see what the questions end up being whenever you're ready.
Okay. If we would start File 1.
So we're coming out
Pause it there for a moment. Mr. Hemsstatt, do you know whose voice you're hearing on this recording?
Yes.
Who is it?
Todd.
Mr. Mullis.
Yes.
Do you know who the other voices would be?
No. Dispatcher.
A dispatcher?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, finish this one.
Okay, so you're headed to in your vehicle? Yes, my car. Okay, just a second here. It's here. Let me ask you. Just a second. I'm going to have another dispatcher get on. I'm going to ask you to stop the vehicle over. Okay, what's your current location? We'll get on headed your way.
That is the end of the first file. And so we will get the second file of 293 pulled up for you. Do you have an understanding of what was happening at the time of this, during this time period of the call?
Sounds like he's in his vehicle.
Do you know what kind of phone Mr. Mullis had?
LG flip phone.
For the younger people in the audience, what is a flip phone?
It's a flip phone.
Does it folds together?
Yes.
Does it have speakerphone?
I believe so. I would assume. I don't know that for sure. I do not own a flip phone.
Okay. We will pick back up with the second file.
Okay, what is your name, sir?
Okay, so we are about 44 seconds into the second file. Did you hear Mr. Mullis say anything?
He's in a white Chevy.
Did you hear anything else? Did you hear him ask the dispatcher a question?
I don't remember, actually, if we're being honest. No, I did. It's possible.
At that time, what's your understanding of what the dispatchers are telling Mr. Mullis to do?
I think they're instructing him to pull over, and they're going to start administering CPR.
Have you had other instances in Delaware County where people have driven themselves to the hospital?
I'm sure it's possible, yes. I don't know of anything in particular.
And we can back it up. We'll back this up just one more time for you. Maybe you could listen to see if you hear Todd ask anything else. Did you hear that? No? Okay. That's right. We'll keep playing. Did you hear Todd say anything there?
I can't understand what it says. Something about closer, maybe?
Okay. Do you know what's happening now in Todd's vehicle?
I believe he's performing CPR.
Do you?
Would be my guess.
Do you?
Your Honor, can I briefly volunteer the witness for the purpose of an objection? Very briefly.
Go ahead.
Sheriff Hemsstatt, were you on this 911 call?
No.
Were you with Mr. Mullis while this was occurring?
No.
Your Honor, I'm going to object that this is calling for speculation, and it's asking for the witness to opine to what is said and what is occurring on matters that he was not personally present for. He has no personal knowledge of it. As to the trivia questions of what's said and when, I don't see how it's relevant. The court already has the 911 call in evidence. It already came out at trial what was or was not said, and that was a weight question for the jury. So Sheriff Hemsstatt's belief based on this sound system, what he is or is not hearing and what occurred, is not relevant, and it's not helpful, in the state's opinion, to the court's ability to determine the facts at issue.
Well, I would agree that I'm having a hard time figuring out the relevance at this point.
I can move forward, Your Honor, if you'd like, and skip ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hemsstatt, in your review of the other deputies' actions in this investigation, did you become aware that other deputies responded to this 911 call?
Yes,
Do you know if that was Luke Thompson?
it was.
And if I can fast forward to timestamp 6:20, have you known Mr. Thompson for a period of time?
Yes.
Will you be able to recognize his voice?
Yes.
I have to go back. Okay, are we at 6:20? Okay, so my understanding, this is file 2 of 293, time code 620. Do you hear Deputy Thompson?
Can you replay it?
Yes. Right there, did you hear?
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
That's very hard to hear.
Are you aware that Deputy Thompson arrived at the scene and started CPR?
He did.
And he took over for Mr. Mullis?
Yes, that's what his report said, yes.
Do you hear another male voice on the,
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I can't make it out from here, honestly.
is it possible that that's Deputy Thompson?
It is possible, yes.
And that he's there at minute 6:20?
Yes, that's possible.
Do you recall at what point of this 911 call the tip said the statements were?
I don't.
If I directed you to the trial transcripts, which is remarked as Exhibit 351, which should be Volume 5, page 89. I did not write down the line number. 89. If I represented to you that in the transcripts, Maureen Hughes stops the 911 call at minute 6:53 of the second tape, would you disagree?
I would agree with that, if that's what that reflects.
Okay. And then again, she stops it at minute 7:00.
Yes.
I'm going to object. The transcript speaks for itself. Sheriff Hemsstatt wasn't the one testifying, and the transcript's already in evidence.
Just have one follow-up question.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Mr. Hemsstatt, would these statements that you called Maureen Hughes about have occurred after Deputy Thompson arrived?
Objection. This is, it calls for speculation. I don't think it's been established that Deputy Thompson for sure did arrive at 6:20. I believe the sheriff's testimony was it was possible.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that's really an evidentiary objection, but the witness can answer if he's able.
I don't know what you're asking.
If Deputy Thompson arrived at minute 6:20 and the alleged statements that Mr. Mullis makes on the 911 call are at 6:53, wouldn't Deputy Thompson have been present for them?
I don't know if that's when he arrived or not, so I don't know.
If he did, though. If I have a record, his patrol log, if I have another record that shows he's there at minute 6:20 of that 911 call or his testimony, he would be there at the time the tip said Mr. Mullis made other statements.
I don't know.
Just have one more clip to play, Your Honor. What's the timestamp on this one, do you know? 6:40. This will be at timestamp 6:40 of the second file. Do you know what or who is talking there?
I believe it sounds like Todd. I don't know.
Do you know what he said?
I don't know. It's hard to hear on this.
Do you want her on the ground?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
I didn't understand what it sounded like.
Okay. Did you do anything else? Did you do anything else after you got that tip to see if anyone else had heard those statements during the 911 call?
No, I just told Maureen about it, and then that was her decision.
Okay. And you were an investigator at the time, though, of trial in 2019?
Yes.
And you didn't ask Thompson or Holub if they heard those statements?
I don't believe so, no.
Did you ask the dispatchers?
No.
Did you review Thompson or Holub's reports about the 911 call?
I reviewed the reports.
Does those reports contain anything referencing a statement Todd made?
No.
Did you talk to any of the emergency first responders?
No.
Did you review any of their reports?
No.
I'd like to move on and talk a little bit about some 2023 activities. You testified earlier that you reviewed the coat of Mrs. Mullis in the evidence room.
Yes.
And do you recall reaching out to Dr. Cruz about the coat and how many holes were in it?
I do.
Okay. We're going to pull up Exhibit 230. I believe you saw these during your 2023 deposition. And do you remember if you reached out to her with a phone call or text message or an email?
Text message.
We can scroll through these because I think there's a few here. Do these appear to be text messages between you and Kelly Cruz?
Yes.
Why are you texting her?
I text her because I read that report, the opinion report that stated there was 4 holes in the coat, and it's been a while since I reviewed the case file, so that's the original. It's been a while since I've seen it, but that was the main topic about asking her if she was aware of that, how many holes were in the coat. And that's why I went and reviewed the coat, because I thought that was not true.
It looks like in these text messages you took additional pictures of the coat,
Yes.
and then you texted them to Dr. Cruz?
Yes.
You and Dr. Cruz discuss other things?
As far as what, I haven't reviewed this in a while, but I believe so.
Did you also send her a video regarding this case?
It wasn't directly for this case. It was another individual that's very interested in this case, but it had nothing to do with this case. It was a simulation of a chemical tote, and an individual that I think you know who that is simulating falling into it. Yes.
So I want you to scroll down to page 6 of this exhibit and have you review that message for me. Do you know if you are the blue bubbles or the ones that appear to be gray or white?
It's a glare on this.
Can we make it any bigger?
I think I'm the white.
You think you're the white? And what do you recall you and Dr. Cruz are discussing? It's this other person, this other video?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was.
And so if the blue bubble, you believe that's Dr. Cruz's message?
Your Honor, I'm going to object on relevance on this line of questioning. This text string that we're currently discussing, this portion of it, is related to an individual who is not, as we've discussed in chambers and during sidebars, is not directly related to this post-conviction relief action, is an interested member of the public who has taken a very strong interest in the case, and the discussion pertaining to that individual is not relevant to the facts that the court needs to determine here.
Can you help me understand why this would be relevant under a PCR analysis?
If I could ask maybe 2 more questions, I think it will be clear.
Go ahead.
Mr. Hemsstatt, the individual that created the video or that you sent to Kelly Cruz, did he have opinions about Todd Mullis's guilt or how Amy Mullis died?
Oh, yes.
Did he disagree with Dr. Cruz and you?
Yes.
Do you then go on to discuss discuss and agree with Dr. Cruz that he must have a mental illness since you disagree?
Objection, relevance, again, this is not pertinent to the facts of it, or the issues before the court.
Sustained.
If we continue on in your messages down to, sorry, what page this is. It's the first one with the coat. There we go. Is this the message where you send her pictures of the red Carhartt coat?
Yes.
Pink, I'm sorry. And then the next page contained 2 more images. And then what did you write?
I don't know, I don't see it.
I believe the text is in between the images.
Oh, sorry, 5 holes.
Were you referring to the coat?
Yes.
Did you have documentations in your reports anywhere else about the holes in the coat?
I did not.
Did you have Dr. Cruz's photos that we looked at earlier with the arrows?
At that time, yes.
Okay, and then scroll to the next page, page 9. You also, an article is sent. Do you know if you're sending that or Dr. Cruz is sending that?
I believe that'd be her.
And then the next page, page 10, are you guys discussing the article?
Your Honor, I'm going to object again. Sheriff Hemsstatt's and Dr. Cruz's opinions about the media presentations and the filings by Mr. Mullis's counsel are not probative on any issue that is before the court for determination. They are free to have personal opinions in their lives about how they feel the process is going, but it's not relevant for this proceeding.
Any response, counsel?
Your Honor, I think it's relevant for a couple of reasons. One, I haven't been able to fully ask yet, but Mr. Hemsstatt has done several media interviews regarding the case. The messages are illustrative of his attitude and towards the post-conviction and the actions he's taking after the filing.
I will allow a few very brief further questions on this topic, and then I think we need to move on.
Yes, happily.
Again, this is a PCR bench trial. There is no jury here. Let's remember that and keep to the relevant, important issues.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hemsstatt, did you and Dr. Cruz then discuss the PCR?
Not in, what do you mean by discuss?
In these messages, are you discussing the post-conviction filing?
I believe she asked me a question about it.
You say this is out of control. Are you referring to the post-conviction filing?
I can't remember what that was in relation to.
Okay. Were you open to receiving new information about how Amy Mullis had died?
Yes, always.
But you didn't read the entire post-conviction filing?
I did not.
You also spoke to Dr. Cruz on the phone during or after the post-conviction was filed. Did you?
I believe that's possible, yeah. I don't remember the dates and times I actually called her.
Okay. Did you say in these messages that the experts got it wrong?
Yes.
I think that's the very last page, page 11. Sorry, I'm used to you being able to flip through your own exhibit. It's my fault. Did you say the experts got it wrong? Someone got it wrong?
Oh, I already answered that, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we can take that one down. If the medical examiner's office missed something and were wrong that Amy Mills' death is a homicide, would that change your investigation?
Well, it would depend on what they miss. That's a pretty broad question.
If she's wrong and it's not a homicide, does the rest of your investigation prove murder?
I believe it does.
Are you relying on the electronic evidence?
Everything is in a whole.
What else is there besides electronic evidence?
Other witness statements, I guess I haven't reviewed any of the other depositions of witness statements, so I'm not up on all that.
Okay.
But I know there was a lot of witnesses called, and there's a lot of elements to this case.
Are you aware of any evidence that Todd Mullis killed his wife Amy besides what was presented at trial?
No.
I know we talked briefly earlier, I think before the break, that you talked to Roman Gamble at DCI.
Yes.
Can you tell me briefly who he is and why?
He's an intel analyst.
Do you know if Ward Crawley retired from DCI?
Yes.
What did you ask Roman Gamble to do in 2024?
I asked him to take the Cellbrite extraction and the Google searches and to combine the search histories so as an easier workflow document for visual aid.
And did you do that because your testimony at trial was being challenged in this post-conviction?
Well, I never had that formal document made. That document's what Ward and I and Scott Rieger talked about. We never had it officially drafted, so I had Gamble create that document, merge the two searches.
So you found that what you had from before wasn't sufficient, you needed something else? Am I understanding that?
No, that's not accurate. It was sufficient, just a better workflow product.
Okay, nothing further.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning still, Sheriff Hemsstatt. How are you?
Good.
Just want to ask some follow-up questions so we're on the same page here. And I'd like to start with the Google search document that we were just talking about with Mr. Gamble. You did a deposition in this post-conviction relief action in 2023, is that right?
Yes.
And at that point, it had been approximately 5 years since the investigation had occurred, is that right?
Yes.
And it had been several years since even the trial had happened?
Yes.
At your deposition, you were asked various questions, and your deposition's in evidence, of course, but you were asked various questions about the Google searches and how you came to certain conclusions at trial. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Was part of the purpose for creating this document with Mr. Gamble, was that to help refresh your memory of how you came to certain conclusions?
Yes.
And that was given the passive time, things like that?
Yes, created a better workflow document for visual aid.
You were asked some questions about completing reports in this case. Did you complete any reports in this case?
Yes.
And did you document portions of your interviews and investigation that you thought were important?
Yes.
But you didn't document every single action you took, everywhere you drove, is that right?
No.
Is that typical in an investigation to not document every single thing you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yes.
There was some testimony where you referenced that you didn't have access to reports prior to your testimony today. Is that in part because your case file, your reports, your evidence were provided to the state, the prosecution team as part of this post-conviction relief action?
Yes.
So it's not as though that you have somehow had the reports were taken from you for any other reason, right?
Correct.
You were asked a question about your theory on November 10th, 2018. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
And this call came in from Mr. Mullis and his son as a farm accident initially. Is that right?
Correct.
So the approach to the investigation was reliant initially on that representation?
That's what the deputies had told me, yes.
So was it only after the investigation and the autopsy, those results and information, that led you to determine that the investigation pivoted from an accident to a homicide investigation?
Correct.
So any steps you took in those initial hours and days were a result of how it was reported to you. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
You were asked questions about former Deputy Rowley. Can I clarify, was it your understanding that Sheriff LeClaire, your predecessor, had confirmed via the, I think you called it the AVL system, or the GPS, that Deputy Rowley was nowhere near the Mullis farm?
Correct.
And when you say that Rowley was cleared, you don't recall specifically the exact time frame of when that AVL data was reviewed, do you?
No, I don't.
And the AVL system, Sheriff LeClaire is the one who reviewed that?
Yes, he's the only one that has access.
But you were aware in the flow of the investigation that Deputy Rowley was confirmed to not be in that area?
Correct.
And for whatever reason, that wasn't preserved, but it doesn't mean it didn't happen, right?
Right.
There were some questions about the autopsy, and you were asked how many holes they found in the coat or clothing. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you had prior testimony where you were trying to recall how many holes they observed at that time. Do you remember those questions?
Correct.
And you thought it might have, your recollection at the time of your deposition was you thought maybe they had counted 6. Do you remember that?
Correct.
Would it be fair to say that regardless of your memory, that you would defer to the notes and the subsequent viewing of the clothes for what the evidence actually shows?
Yes.
So if the evidence shows there's 5 holes in the clothing, you would defer to what that shows?
Yes.
Regarding the Google searches, you were asked some questions about the harvest season and when planting is. And there was some, actually first, let me go to, there was questions about UTC time, which I believe is Universal Time Code. Does that sound right?
Universal Coordinated Time.
Thank you. The purpose of your investigation with the Google searches was not to determine what time the searches were, was it?
No, it was specifically the content.
So that was your focus, was the content of the searches?
Yes.
You were also asked a question about Miranda warnings. And to be clear, you were not in the truck with Agent Turbot and Mr. Mullis, right?
No.
So if Agent Turbot had read Mr. Mullis his Miranda warnings at that time before asking any questions, you wouldn't have been personally aware of that?
I would not have been present.
And the only other person in that vehicle besides those two is a former deputy who is unable to testify for other reasons, right?
I don't know if he was in the vehicle or not, but yeah, you are correct.
And that's because he has passed away?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, Sheriff.
Any redirect?
I think very, very briefly, Your Honor. One quick follow-up, Mr. Hemsstatt, regarding the Google searches. You just said that you were only concerned about the content of the Google searches?
That was the main focus, is content.
Did you do any investigation to determine who created the searches or did the searches?
What exactly you're asking?
I'm trying to understand that you were investigating the content.
Yes.
Did you do anything to investigate who made the search?
Ward Crawley and I worked on it.
And I just want to
That
know
would probably-
specifically you.
Oh, I don't think I did it. No.
Okay. You didn't talk to other members of the Mullis family about the content that you found?
I did not.
Okay. And we talked earlier about how you didn't do any, did you do any investigation about the times of the searches to determine where the iPad or another device could have been?
No.
Or the people that had access to those devices?
Right.
Okay. Do you recall testifying at this criminal trial that you didn't have any other suspects outside of Mr. Mullis and Mr. Frazier?
I don't remember that.
Okay. Did you mention Deputy Rowley in your trial testimony?
Objection, Your Honor. I believe my recollection is there was a subject of a motion limine for the trial. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was subject of motion limine to limit the testimony of specifically involving the Deputy Rowley issue, so I don't want Sheriff Hemsstatt's testimony to be mischaracterized.
I'm happy to defer to the court on what the transcript says and rephrase my question, if that would be helpful.
That's probably the quickest way to solve the issue. I'm looking at the motion in limine, but...
And sorry, Your Honor, to clarify, motion limine from the underlying trial.
Oh, okay. Then it would be definitely the quickest way to solve the problem. If you don't mind, Ms. Nichols-Cook, we'll handle it that way.
Mr. Hemsstatt, did you testify at the criminal trial about Deputy Rowley's affair with Amy Mullis?
No, I was never asked that.
Were you told not to mention his name because of a motion in limine?
I don't think so.
Don't remember. Okay. Can I just one moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
If I may show you one more exhibit, and we'll pull up 371. I just want to confirm that this is the Gamble chart that you were talking about, and I believe Mr. Gamble's going to testify later, but just so that you and I are on the same page. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
We can scroll, I think it's a couple of pages.
Should be like 6,400 searches at the bottom.
Okay, that's a lot of pages. But does this appear to be the
Yes.
document you got back from Mr. Gamble?
Yes.
Okay, and what you were referring to earlier, is that better visual?
Correct.
Okay, we can take that down. My last question is, are there any other notes or reports that regarding the investigation into Ms. Mullis's death or Todd's arrest that wouldn't be in your file?
Not that I know of.
And did you learn at any time about what happened in the car with Agent Turbot and Mr. Mullis after he was arrested?
I don't believe so.
So you don't have any information about whether Miranda was read at that time?
I do not.
Or what, if any, questions were asked?
No.
Okay, nothing further.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, but I'll try to keep it limited to 2 questions, which I'll regret in a moment. Sheriff Hemsstatt, we'll try to get you out here in a second, but I just wanted to clarify, so you were discussing your investigation, the Google searches, the cell phones, all of that. all of that done with the assistance of other agencies and other investigators?
Yes, multiple.
So that included, I think you referenced Ward Crawley, who was an ICAC or DCI investigator, DCI agent Scott Rieger, all of those people?
Yes.
So your conclusions about digital evidence was all related to the totality of your investigation working with those other people?
Yes, it was a team effort, yes.
And then final question, your testimony here at the trial, your depositions, were you truthful to the best of your ability and your recollection of everything given the passage of time?
Yes.
All right, I appreciate it, Sheriff, and I have no further questions.
Anything further, Ms. Nichols-Cook?
One question, Your Honor. Have you filed any supplemental reports to correct your prior testimony at trial?
I don't believe so.
No further questions, Your Honor. I just want to make sure that we have agreement on the exhibits before the witness leaves.
Okay. Do you want to confer with Mr. Bakke quickly off the record, or?
Make sure the photos from 311, the Thompson report at 300, Sheriff photo, Thompson's report. Do you want the policy completely? On the policy? Yeah.
All right.
The dispatch audio? Okay. So, Your Honor, I think we're in agreement that we would move to admit Exhibit 311, the photographs from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, to formally move to admit 300, Deputy Thompson's report, and then Exhibit 400, the policies of the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. We would ask for the caveat that they be filed at a level 1. And then Exhibit 297, which is the dispatch audio recording. We did not play that this morning, but we would move to admit it upon agreement for completeness for the record.
Mr. Bakke, any objection to those exhibits?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, they will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Great. Anything further then for this witness, or is the sheriff free to go?
He is free to go.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, are we returning then to Dr. Nye?
Your Honor, we did not have a good place for Dr. Nye to wait in the building. She is nearby. I'm wondering if the court might be amenable to starting our lunch break on the earlier side and reconvening at 1 o'clock or something in that time frame. If not, we can get her, but she is nearby. She's not in the building.
That's fine. We can take our lunch at this time and plan on resuming then at 1 p.m. Court is in recess until then.